Picture this. A warm liquid crosses your lips, carrying a subtle sweetness with a ghost of spice, then travels downward and sets off a silent chain reaction deep inside you. Microscopic compounds fan out through your bloodstream, some heading straight to the liver, while others weave slowly through the intestinal tract, and a few glide right past immune sentinels that never truly clock out. You reach for the lamp, press your head into the cushion, and without any conscious instruction, your body begins its overnight maintenance program, scrubbing debris, mending tissues, restoring order. By sunrise, you might see the same reflection staring back, yet beneath the surface, countless tiny operations have already completed their full cycle. Certain nighttime beverages actively support that nocturnal cleanup crew, while others quietly sabotage it. And right now, I am going to walk you through 5 of them with precise measurements, step-by-step preparation, 2 blunders that destroy their effectiveness, and a compact bedside movement sequence you can perform without even standing up. I am not a doctor. I simply digest scientific literature professionally and convert it into everyday language anyone can grasp. Let us start with number 5, chamomile infusion. Nearly everybody recognizes it, which is precisely why nearly everybody botches the preparation. When you steep chamomile in an uncovered vessel, a substantial portion of what you purchased escapes as vapor because the soothing constituents are highly volatile and hitch a ride on every wisp of steam curling away from the surface. That fragrant plume rising off your mug is not harmless ambiance. It is your remedy vanishing into thin air. Place a lid on the cup, and those compounds remain trapped in the liquid where they belong. Chamomile supplies a substance called apigenin that appears to gently interact with the same neurological docking stations targeted by many prescription sedatives, though with far less intensity. The scientific data is not overwhelming, but it leans reliably in one direction, suggesting it may nudge certain individuals toward an easier descent into slumber. Here is your blueprint. 1 generous teaspoon of dried blossoms or a single quality sachet, 200 milliliters of water heated until small bubbles appear, but never a rolling boil. Then cover the vessel with a simple saucer and let it steep 5 to 7 minutes. Consume it roughly 3/4 of an hour before retiring. If you react to ragweed, daisies, or marigolds, steer entirely clear. Moving to number 4, fennel seed infusion. Throughout India, the Middle East, and Mediterranean Europe, people have been chewing these seeds after heavy meals for generations, long before anyone could articulate the biological mechanism. Here is the exact scenario this beverage addresses. You ate slightly later than usual, and the meal was richer than your norm, and now you find yourself horizontal with a band of uncomfortable pressure across your midsection. You keep rotating from one flank to the other and back again, not exactly hurting, but simply unable to settle, unable to figure out why rest refuses to arrive. That sensation often indicates trapped gas moving easily when you are upright, but stalling completely once you lie flat. The volatile oils in fennel seem to relax the smooth musculature lining the digestive highway, potentially allowing that stagnant air to resume its journey. Here is your blueprint. 1 teaspoon of whole fennel seeds crushed lightly with the back of a spoon against any flat surface. And do not skip this step because intact seeds hoard their oils, while fractured ones surrender them freely. Add 250 milliliters of hot water, cover tightly, steep 10 full minutes, strain, and sip while still warm. The scheduling differs from every other drink discussed tonight. Take it roughly half an hour after your evening meal rather than immediately before bed, so it operates during peak digestive activity. And there is a 2-minute manual technique that pairs beautifully with it. Position yourself flat on your back with knees raised and soles planted. Then place your palm against your belly just inside the right hip prominence and trace deliberate circles with mild pressure, ascending the right side, crossing just beneath the ribcage, and descending the left side, always moving clockwise relative to your downward gaze. That matches the actual anatomical routing of your large bowel and reversing direction fights against its natural flow. Execute 20 unhurried circuits across 2 minutes and stop. Now, before we advance further, let us address the first critical blunder, the one that prevents most individuals from ever cementing a nightly beverage ritual. They consume it far too late, and they consume far too large a quantity. A massive mug at 11 means nature calls at 2 in the morning while you stumble through darkness toward the bathroom. And for countless people past 60, that single interruption is the primary culprit behind fragmented sleep. Then they conclude the tea failed them, when in truth, the scheduling failed. 2 straightforward rules eliminate this problem. Finish your drink at least 60 minutes before extinguishing the light and restrict yourself to one modest cup, 200 to 250 milliliters, not a soup bowl. Additionally, empty your bladder immediately prior to climbing into bed, even when you feel no urgency whatsoever. By the way, our community is rapidly approaching 200,000 subscribers, and if these insights resonate with you, please hit subscribe. It takes barely a heartbeat and genuinely helps the channel. Thank you. Let us press onward. Number 3. Warm golden milk. Absorb this fact before you ever reach for turmeric. Its primary active molecule curcumin is notoriously difficult for the body to absorb alone, and most of what you ingest simply exits the other end. Add a tiny amount of black pepper, however, and absorption surges dramatically because the piperine within pepper decelerates the speed at which the liver clears curcumin from circulation. The pepper is not a culinary accent. It is the entire engine driving the formula. A mug of golden milk without it reduces to little more than tinted warm liquid. Why evening specifically? Because the overnight hours represent peak tissue repair time, curcumin has received considerable research attention regarding its influence on inflammatory signaling pathways, and evidence indicates it may assist the body in preserving its natural inflammatory equilibrium across the long haul. Picture this moment with me. You stir awake, perch on the mattress edge, and before that first footfall, you must pause several seconds because the knees feel cemented shut and the finger joints refuse to curl properly. 20 minutes pass and you function normally again, yet those initial moments belong to a version of yourself substantially older than you identify with. That version is precisely who this beverage serves. Here is your blueprint. 250 milliliters of any milk, whether dairy, oat, or almond, half a teaspoon of ground turmeric, a genuine pinch of black pepper you must not omit, and half a teaspoon of coconut oil, ghee, or simply whole milk instead of fat-free, because curcumin demands fat for uptake. Warm the mixture gently over 3 to 4 minutes, while stirring without ever allowing it to reach a boil, drizzle in honey off the heat if desired, and consume 1 hour before bed. If you take blood-thinning medication or face upcoming surgery, discuss turmeric with your physician beforehand. Number 2. Ceylon cinnamon water. Here is something virtually nobody learns at the point of purchase. The label cinnamon on a grocery shelf actually denotes 2 entirely distinct botanical species. The cheap, ubiquitous variety is cassia, which harbors a compound called coumarine, and in larger consistent doses, coumarine may place strain upon the liver. Ceylon cinnamon, frequently designated as true cinnamon, carries merely trace levels. For a dusting atop oatmeal once weekly, the difference is negligible, but for a nightly cup, the distinction becomes profoundly important. So flip that container over and read the fine print. Why the evening? Because blood glucose does not hold perfectly steady during sleep. In many individuals, it drifts and often surges in the pre-dawn hours as the body readies itself for wakefulness. Research examining cinnamon and glucose regulation produces mixed results, yet multiple studies propose it may help certain people maintain steadier fasting blood sugar numbers. Have you ever jolted awake around 4 in the morning feeling oddly shaky, hungry, or overheated and wandered to the kitchen searching for something you did not genuinely need? That specific pattern is exactly what this beverage aims to address. Here is your blueprint. Half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon powder, or a single small quill, 200 milliliters of hot water covered, steep 10 minutes for the stick or 5 for the powder, then stir thoroughly because the sediment drops fast. Consume 60 minutes before bed 3 to 4 evenings weekly instead of nightly. If you take medication for blood sugar management, consult your doctor first because the combination may drive your numbers lower than intended. And finally, number 1. Clove infusion. Let me explain why it seized the crown. Reach backward into your sensory memory of a dental practice, that distinctive aroma, simultaneously sharp and warm, with a faint numbing quality you would recognize immediately, even decades later. That is eugenol, the principal active constituent in cloves, and dental professionals have utilized it for well over 100 years in temporary fillings and dental adhesives owing to its soothing and antimicrobial characteristics. It remains in active use today, meaning your dentist has been quietly employing clove biochemistry throughout your entire lifetime. For the vast majority of recorded history, these desiccated flower buds sprouted on a handful of diminutive volcanic islands and commanded a value approaching their weight in gold, yet today they cost roughly $2 per jar. Gram for gram cloves rank among the most antioxidant-dense spices ever assayed, and that pairing of remarkable potency with negligible cost is precisely why this occupies the top position. Warm clove preparations have circulated in traditional use for centuries, primarily addressing digestive unease and irritated throats, and while tradition does not equal proof, it certainly signals something about human tolerability. Why the evening? Because the two realms clove water may most benefit, digestive comfort and the microbial equilibrium within the mouth and gut, are both domains your body actively tends while you lie motionless. Now the recipe. And this step is where people derail the entire enterprise. 3 to 4 whole cloves, not 8, not 10, because cloves possess immense strength and increasing the count only yields harsh flavor and a less contented stomach. 200 to 250 milliliters of hot water just shy of boiling poured directly over the whole buds, then cover the cup because eugenol is volatile, and an uncovered vessel allows the majority to escape with the rising vapor. Steep 10 to 15 minutes. 10 produces a mellow cup, while 15 delivers a more assertive one, and begin with 10 during your first week of practice. Leave the buds in or strain them out according to your preference. Drink it warm 45 to 60 minutes before retiring 3 to 5 evenings per week, not unendingly every single night. If you wish to improve the flavor profile, I would reach for fresh ginger first, 2 thin coins dropped into the cup alongside the cloves, a small quill of Ceylon cinnamon second, and a lemon slice third, added strictly after steeping, never during. Now, who should exercise caution? Speak with your physician before trying this if you take blood thinners or blood sugar medication. Discontinue 2 weeks prior to any surgical or dental procedure, and avoid it altogether if you suffer from ulcers or pronounced reflux, as it may aggravate rather than soothe. And observe one non-negotiable rule: never ingest clove oil. Clove oil and clove water represent entirely separate entities. Concentrated clove oil taken internally has been connected to serious hepatic damage, so stick to whole buds and hot water with nothing else added. While those cloves steep, here is exactly what you do with the waiting minutes. Perch on the edge of your bed. The opening minute targets circulation with both soles planted firmly. Raise your heels while keeping toes down, then lower them and reverse by lifting toes while heels stay grounded, alternating roughly once per second for a complete minute, because your calf musculature functions as a secondary pump assisting blood return from the lower extremities toward the heart, and that pump has been dormant since your evening meal concluded. The second minute addresses breathing. Place both hands on your lower ribs and draw air through the nose across a count of 4 while sensing the rib cage expand outward. Then release through lightly pursed lips across a count of 6 because the elongated exhale forms the crucial component that tends to shift the nervous system toward parasympathetic dominance. Complete roughly 6 full breath cycles, and if you feel lightheaded, simply compress the counts. The third minute focuses on unwinding. Roll both shoulders backward 5 times with deliberate slowness. Then permit your chin to descend toward your sternum for 15 seconds. Then remove your socks and position a tennis ball or rolled towel beneath one foot and roll it from heel to toe for 30 seconds before switching sides. Then drink your clove water. Then extinguish the light. There remains one additional observation worth voicing, and it has nothing specifically to do with cloves. Back in the 1950s, when someone informed their family physician about sleep difficulties, the standard counsel typically involved a lighter supper consumed earlier, a brief stroll afterward, a warm beverage, and a fixed bedtime hour. Nobody branded those practices as miraculous remedies back then, and I certainly will not pretend otherwise now. Nor will I fabricate evidence that clove water itself was ever a standard medical prescription during that era, because I possess no such documentation and refuse to manufacture claims. Yet, those straightforward habits gradually dissolved beneath screens and delayed eating and irregular schedules, and today, large numbers of people are excavating them once more, not as magical panaceas, but simply as sensible components of a healthful existence. Which brings me to the second mistake, and this one carries greater weight: attempting all 5 beverages simultaneously. You finish watching a presentation like this one, feeling energized and inspired, and by Thursday afternoon, 5 containers sit on your kitchen counter with 3 barely breached, while the entire enterprise starts resembling an unpaid chore. Select one, only one, and practice it 3 or 4 evenings weekly across a 14-day span, alongside those 3 minutes of bedside movement. 2 weeks supplies sufficient duration to genuinely assess impact, whereas 5 simultaneous drinks yield absolutely zero clarity because you can never isolate which element produced any effect whatsoever. That is the complete practice distilled to its essence. 3 or 4 cloves, a cup of hot water, 15 minutes under cover, 3 minutes on the bed's edge, and a body that greets its overnight shift with slightly gentler conditions than it otherwise might have faced. Before you depart, I have a single question for you. Nearly every single one of us grew up around someone who maintained an evening custom of their own: a grandmother with her warmed milk, a father who insisted on opening the window before bed no matter the season, an aunt with an unlabeled jar on the sill whose contents nobody could confidently identify. Tell me in the comments what that ritual was in your household, because half of everything I discussed tonight was once transmitted down generations through precisely that channel, not from textbooks, but from one person to another across a kitchen table. If this gave you something worth using, please tap like and help my channel continue reaching people who might benefit, and I will see you in the next one.